105 degrees in Phoenix right now, in the middle of March, not July, not August, March. And if you think that is the only extreme weather event happening across this country right now, you have no idea what is about to hit your state in the next 72 hours. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through a forecast covering more than 270 cities across America, and I promise you, your city is on this list. But first, let me show you something that meteorologists are calling historically unprecedented. Right now, as I am recording this on Wednesday evening, March the 18th, 2026, there is a dome of high pressure sitting over the southwestern United States that is producing temperatures we have never seen in March, ever. Phoenix, Arizona, 101 degrees. Scottsdale, 100 degrees. Surprise, Arizona, 102 degrees. Tempe, 101 degrees. Mesa, 99 degrees, Chandler, 99 degrees, Goodyear, 100 degrees, Buckeye, 100 degrees. These are not summer temperatures. These are record-obliterating temperatures for a month that is supposed to be transitioning into spring. And here is the number that should make every single one of you pay attention. The all-time United States March temperature record for any location is being threatened right now, not approached. Threatened. Multiple locations in the desert Southwest could shatter records that have stood for decades. Palm Springs, California is sitting at 104 degrees right now. Indio, 103 degrees. Coachella, 103 degrees. Calexico, 103 degrees. El Centro, 103 degrees. Borrego Springs, 103 degrees. Yuma, Arizona, 103 degrees. Bullhead City, 100 degrees. Laughlin, Nevada, 100 degrees. Now, I promised you something at the top of this video. I promised you a complete city-by-city breakdown, and that is exactly what you are about to get. But here is what I need from you. Drop a comment right now telling me where you are watching from, your city, your state, because after this video, I am going to be responding to comments with specific forecasts for your exact location. That is my commitment to you. Now, let us get into it. Let me start with the question that I know is on everyone's mind right now. Is this heat wave coming to the rest of the country? The short answer is parts of it, yes, but not in the way you think. And that twist is coming up in about 3 minutes, so do not go anywhere. First, let me paint the full picture of what is happening in the West right now, because this is not just about Arizona and California. This is about a pattern that, if it were happening in the middle of summer, would produce 130-degree temperatures in Death Valley, California. Let that sink in for a moment. The atmospheric setup right now is the same kind of pattern that produces the most extreme heat events on the planet, but it is happening in March. Death Valley right now is at 88 degrees. That might sound mild compared to the others, but for March, that is extraordinary. Let me take you through California right now, city by city, because what is happening in the Golden State is nothing short of remarkable. Hollywood, 95 degrees. Burbank, 95 degrees. Glendale, 95 degrees. Pasadena, 95 degrees. Rancho Cucamonga, 95 degrees. San Bernardino, 95 degrees. Riverside, 95 degrees. Claremont, 95 degrees. Ontario, 95 degrees. Fontana, 95 degrees. Valley Village, 95 degrees. Sunrise Manor in Nevada, 95 degrees. And it gets even hotter. Santa Clarita, 96 degrees. Calabasas, 96 degrees. Simi Valley, 96 degrees. Encino, 96 degrees, Sylmar 97 degrees, Joshua Tree 96 degrees, 29 Palms 96 degrees, Pacoima 97 degrees, Redlands 99 degrees, Yucaipa 99 degrees, Crestline 99 degrees, Loma Linda 99 degrees, Rialto 99 degrees, Moreno Valley 94 degrees, Hesperia 93 degrees, Victorville 93 degrees, Banning 94 degrees, Bakersfield 94 degrees, Paso Robles 94 degrees, Sahuarita in Arizona 94 degrees, Tucson 94 degrees. The Central Valley of California, which normally does not see these kinds of temperatures until May or June, is absolutely baking right now. Fresno 92 degrees, Visalia 92 degrees, Tulare 92 degrees, Dinuba 92 degrees, Angels Camp 90 degrees, Hollister 90 degrees, Modesto 90 degrees, Turlock 90 degrees, California City 90 degrees, Atwater 88 degrees, Stockton 88 degrees, Tracy 88 degrees, Lodi 88 degrees, Sacramento, 86 degrees. Roseville, 88 degrees. Citrus Heights, 88 degrees. Orangevale, 88 degrees. Arden Arcade, 88 degrees. Now here is where it gets really interesting, and this is the part I told you was coming. Pay close attention because this is the twist. While the West is baking under this incredible dome of heat, the eastern half of the country is experiencing the exact opposite. And I mean the exact opposite. Let me show you what the Northeast looked like today. Portland, Maine, 27 degrees. Bangor, Maine, 26 degrees. Presque Isle, 21 degrees. Augusta, Maine, 26 degrees. That is not a typo. 26 degrees in Augusta on March the 18th. Boston, 31 degrees. Plymouth, Massachusetts, 28 degrees. New York City, 31 degrees. Brooklyn, 31 degrees. Queens, 32 degrees. Albany, New York, 30 degrees. Syracuse, 28 degrees. Buffalo, 32 degrees. Rochester, 32 degrees. The contrast is absolutely staggering. While Los Angeles is sitting at 85 degrees, New York City is at 31. That is a 54-degree difference between two major American cities on the same day. 54 degrees. When was the last time you heard of a temperature spread like that across the continental United States in March? And it is not just the Northeast. Let me walk you through the entire eastern seaboard right now. Philadelphia, 36 degrees. Baltimore, 34 degrees. Washington, District of Columbia, 39 degrees. Pittsburgh, 34 degrees. Cleveland, 33 degrees. Akron, 33 degrees. Canton, Ohio, 32 degrees with light snow falling right now. Yes, snow. While Phoenix is at 101 degrees, Canton, Ohio is getting snow. Detroit, 33 degrees. Ann Arbor, 33 degrees. Grand Rapids, 32 degrees. Traverse City, 28 degrees. Cadillac, Michigan, 25 degrees. Now here is the critical question, and this is the part you absolutely cannot miss. What happens when these two extreme air masses collide? Because they are going to collide. And when they do, it is going to create a very active weather pattern for the middle of the country and the eastern states starting as early as Friday. But before I get to that collision zone, let me finish the current temperature picture so you know exactly where your city stands right now. I am going to work through every region systematically. The Southeast right now is in a transitional zone. Atlanta, 54 degrees. Charlotte, 47 degrees. Raleigh, 42 degrees. Charleston, South Carolina, 51 degrees. Savannah, 51 degrees. Jacksonville, Florida, 53 degrees. Tampa, 66 degrees. Miami, 65 degrees with fog. Fort Lauderdale, 65 degrees with light rain and fog. Orlando, 59 degrees. Tallahassee, 57 degrees. Nashville, 55 degrees. Memphis, 61 degrees. Birmingham, 57 degrees. New Orleans, 57 degrees. The Gulf Coast is running cool but comfortable. Pensacola, 54 degrees. Mobile, 55 degrees. Biloxi, 56 degrees. Gulfport, 56 degrees. Houston, 67 degrees. San Antonio, 75 degrees. Austin, 74 degrees. Dallas, 72 degrees. Fort Worth, 71 degrees. Now let me take you through the Great Plains and the Midwest because this is where the story gets really compelling. There is a dramatic temperature gradient running right through the middle of the country. On the western side, temperatures are well above normal. On the eastern side, they are still locked in winter. Look at this contrast in the Plains states. Denver, 79 degrees. Colorado Springs, 76 degrees. Boulder, 81 degrees. Fort Collins, 80 degrees. Pueblo, 82 degrees. Amarillo, Texas, 82 degrees. Lubbock, 81 degrees. These are remarkably warm readings for mid-March. But slide east just a few hundred miles and it is a completely different world. Minneapolis, 46 degrees. Milwaukee, 36 degrees. Chicago, 45 degrees. Green Bay, 32 degrees. Madison, 38 degrees. Des Moines, 59 degrees. Omaha, 72 degrees. Kansas City, 69 degrees. St. Louis, 64 degrees. Indianapolis, 48 degrees. Do you see that gradient? Denver is at 79, but Minneapolis is at 46. That is a 33-degree difference across the plains. And that gradient, that temperature clash, is the engine that is going to drive severe weather over the next few days. Now, I promised you I would deliver on the forecast, and here is where I make good on that promise. Let me break down what is coming for each region day by day with specific timing so you can plan accordingly. Let us start with Thursday, March the 19th. For the Northeast and New England, Thursday morning is going to be cold again. Portland, Maine will start in the upper 20s. There is an interesting convergence zone forming in central Maine where southeast winds are meeting southerly flow. This convergence could produce scattered snow showers between Casco Bay and the mid-coast, potentially leaving a light coating. Not a major event, but worth knowing about if you are in that corridor. By Thursday afternoon, the snow showers should dissipate, but Thursday night brings a clipper system tracking north of Maine that will spread widely scattered snow showers, primarily across the northern half of the state. For the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley, Thursday brings a significant improvement. Temperatures that started in the teens this morning will rise into the middle 30s by Thursday morning and reach the upper 40s by afternoon. That is a 20 to 30 degree improvement from what we saw today. There will be a mix of sun and clouds. The best chance for a stray shower runs along the Interstate 71 and Interstate 77 corridor, from Toledo down to Mansfield to Worcester to New Philadelphia and down toward Marietta. Most areas stay dry with some sunshine, especially by afternoon. For the southeast, Thursday remains relatively quiet. Temperatures will be seasonable with most areas in the 50s to low 60s. A few clouds, but generally pleasant conditions. For the west, the heat dome continues to intensify. Thursday is forecast to be even hotter than today in many locations. Phoenix could reach 105 to 106 degrees. Interior California valleys will remain well into the triple digits. Record highs are forecast at dozens of locations across the Southwest. And here is the number that has everyone in the meteorological community talking. The National Weather Service has issued forecast maps for Friday showing white boxes everywhere across the Southwest. Each white box represents a forecast record high temperature. The sheer number of records expected to fall on Friday is extraordinary. Now here's the part you really need to hear if you live anywhere from the Ohio Valley to the Northeast. Do not skip ahead. This is the section that matters most for your weekend plans. Friday, March the 20th, the first day of spring, and it is going to come in with a bang. A warm front lifts through the eastern states early Friday. Behind it, a cold front approaches, though calling it a cold front is generous because there is really no significant cold air behind it. It is primarily a wind shift line. But that wind shift is going to be enough to trigger showers and possibly thunderstorms during the second half of the day Friday. Here is the timing breakdown. For the Ohio Valley and western Pennsylvania, showers begin developing during the midday hours Friday and become more scattered through the afternoon and evening. There is the potential for a thunderstorm or two, particularly in northeast Ohio and western Pennsylvania during the second half of the day. If you have outdoor plans Friday evening, have a backup option. For New England, Friday daytime should be mostly quiet but cloudy. Temperatures will climb into the 40s, which is a welcome change. But Friday night brings another clipper system that will produce passing snow showers across much of the state of Maine. Southern Maine could see some rain mixed in. For the Mid-Atlantic, Friday afternoon and evening brings scattered showers. Nothing severe expected at this point, but enough to interrupt outdoor activities. Now here comes the really important part about the weekend, and I need everyone from Maine down to Georgia and west to the Mississippi to listen carefully. Saturday is shaping up to be the better half of the weekend for most of the eastern states. There may be fog Saturday morning, especially in areas that receive rain Friday afternoon and evening. Once that fog burns off, expect a nice afternoon with temperatures north of 60 degrees and a good deal of sunshine. If you have outdoor plans this weekend, Saturday is your day. Lock it in. But Sunday is where things get really interesting, and I do not mean interesting in a good way. A storm system is going to develop Sunday that has the potential to bring showers and thunderstorms back to a large portion of the eastern United States. And here is what has my attention. There are early indications that some of these storms Sunday afternoon could be strong. The timing for the most active weather appears to be Sunday afternoon through Sunday evening. For Maine and northern New England, the picture is even more complex. There is going to be a stalled boundary, likely a warm front that could become stationary. The position of this boundary is going to determine who gets snow and who gets rain. North of the boundary, expect snow. South of the boundary, expect rain. If the boundary sets up farther south down into southern New England, that means more snow for Maine. One forecast model brings a low-pressure system right over the top of Maine, which would give southern Maine rain and northern Maine snow. Now let me give you the complete city-by-city temperature picture so you can see exactly where you fall in this national weather pattern. I am going to go region by region, and I want you to find your city, starting with the Pacific Northwest. Seattle, 57 degrees. Tacoma, 54 degrees with light rain. Bellevue, 57 degrees. Bellingham, 58 degrees. Portland, Oregon, 69 degrees. Salem, Oregon, 71 degrees. Eugene, 75 degrees. Corvallis, 70 degrees. Bend, 76 degrees. Astoria, 51 degrees. Spokane, 61 degrees. Yakima, 73 degrees. Wenatchee, 68 degrees. Olympia, 56 degrees with light rain. The Pacific Northwest is seeing a split personality right now. The west side of the Cascades is cool with some rain, while the east side is surprisingly warm. Pendleton, 68 degrees. Hermiston, 69 degrees. The Dalles area near Mosier, 75 degrees. Walla Walla, 69 degrees. Moving into the northern Rockies and northern plains. Boise, 79 degrees. Idaho Falls, 74 degrees. Pocatello, 74 degrees. Missoula, 55 degrees. Helena, 64 degrees. Billings, 64 degrees. Great Falls, 60 degrees. Bozeman, 69 degrees. Butte, 66 degrees. Casper, 75 degrees. Cheyenne, 73 degrees. Rapid City, 70 degrees. Pierre, 68 degrees. Bismarck, 61 degrees. Fargo, 52 degrees. Now the Southern Rockies and Desert Southwest, ground zero for this historic heat event. Albuquerque, 85 degrees. Santa Fe, 80 degrees. Roswell, 85 degrees. Las Cruces, 84 degrees. El Paso, 87 degrees. Las Vegas, 89 degrees. North Las Vegas, 93 degrees. Reno, 85 degrees. Carson City, 85 degrees. Salt Lake City, 78 degrees. Provo, 73 degrees. St. George, Utah, 89 degrees. Hurricane, Utah, 89 degrees. Flagstaff, 75 degrees. Prescott, 84 degrees. Sedona, 86 degrees. Payson, 86 degrees. Look at these numbers from the Navajo Nation and surrounding areas. Window Rock, 77 degrees. Chinle, 77 degrees. Shiprock, 79 degrees. Tuba City, 79 degrees. Kayenta area near Jadito, 77 degrees. These communities are seeing temperatures 20 to 30 degrees above normal. The Texas temperatures tell an interesting story because you can see the transition zone right through the state. The western half of Texas is running warm to very warm. Midland, 79 degrees. Odessa, 78 degrees. San Angelo, 78 degrees. Abilene, 75 degrees. Wichita Falls, 76 degrees. But even the eastern half of Texas is pleasant. Dallas, 72 degrees. Fort Worth, 71 degrees. Houston, 67 degrees. San Antonio, 75 degrees. Austin, 74 degrees. Corpus Christi, 70 degrees. Brownsville, 73 degrees. Laredo, 82 degrees. McAllen, 79 degrees. The Southern Plains are also enjoying well above normal temperatures. Oklahoma City, 76 degrees. Tulsa, 73 degrees. Wichita, 74 degrees. Topeka, 74 degrees. Omaha, 72 degrees. Lincoln, 75 degrees. Now let me take you through the areas that are feeling the cold side of this pattern, because tens of millions of Americans are waking up to temperatures that feel more like January than late March. The upper Midwest is still locked in the cold. Minneapolis, 46 degrees, which actually is not terrible. Green Bay, 32 degrees. Appleton, 36 degrees. Milwaukee, 36 degrees. Madison, 38 degrees. Duluth, 41 degrees. International Falls, 32 degrees. Iron Mountain, 30 degrees. Marquette, 28 degrees. Traverse City, 28 degrees. The Great Lakes states are chilly. Detroit, 33 degrees. Lansing, 32 degrees. Flint, 30 degrees. Saginaw, 30 degrees. Grand Rapids, 32 degrees. South Bend, 38 degrees. Fort Wayne, 38 degrees. Toledo, 36 degrees. Columbus, Ohio, 39 degrees. Cincinnati, 45 degrees. Dayton, 41 degrees. Let me now walk through the Northeast in detail. This is where many of you are watching from, and I want to make sure you have a complete picture. Starting with New England. Boston, 31 degrees. Worcester, 28 degrees. Springfield, Massachusetts, 33 degrees. Hartford, Connecticut, 32 degrees. New Haven, 29 degrees. Providence, 29 degrees. Burlington, Vermont, 28 degrees. Montpelier, 20 degrees. Rutland, 22 degrees. Concord, New Hampshire, 33 degrees. Manchester, New Hampshire, 31 degrees. Portsmouth, New Hampshire, 29 degrees. Portland, Maine, 27 degrees. Bangor, 26 degrees. Augusta, Maine, 26 degrees. Lewiston, Maine, 26 degrees. Presque Isle, 21 degrees. Bar Harbor area near Calais, 26 degrees. Moving through the mid-Atlantic. New York City, 31 degrees. Brooklyn, 31 degrees. Queens, 32 degrees. White Plains, 29 degrees. Yonkers, 32 degrees. Jersey City, 32 degrees. Newark 32 degrees, Trenton 33 degrees, Philadelphia 36 degrees, Wilmington, Delaware 33 degrees, Baltimore 34 degrees, Washington, District of Columbia 39 degrees, Richmond 38 degrees, Virginia Beach 35 degrees, Norfolk 36 degrees, Pennsylvania is especially cold, Pittsburgh 34 degrees, Allentown 34 degrees, Harrisburg 35 degrees, Scranton 30 degrees, Wilkes-Barre 30 degrees, State College 32 degrees, Erie 32 degrees. Now, I need to circle back to something critically important, and this is the part of the video where I fulfill the promise I made at the beginning about the severe weather potential. Do not skip past this section. We are in Severe Weather Awareness Week in Ohio, and today there was a statewide tornado drill across the state. This is not a coincidence. This is the time of year when severe weather ramps up and the storm potential for Sunday is real. Here is what you need to understand about tornadoes because there is a massive misconception out there. Most people picture a tornado and they think of the giant wedge tornadoes they see in movies or on storm-chasing videos. But the reality is dramatically different. Over half of all tornadoes in the United States are rated EF0. That is the lowest category. Another 36.5% are EF1. So when you add those together, approximately 87% of all tornadoes in this country are on the low end of the scale. EF3 and above tornadoes are very rare. EF5 tornadoes, the monsters that can level entire neighborhoods, make up a fraction of 1% of all tornadoes nationwide. But here is the critical twist that most people do not realize. Those low-end tornadoes, the EF0s and EF1s that make up the vast majority, are often the hardest to detect on radar. They can be transient, touching down for just a minute or two. If the radar scan only updates every couple of minutes and the tornado is on the ground for 60 seconds, it can be completely missed. That is a real and serious challenge for warning these events. Ohio is no stranger to the most powerful tornadoes. The state has experienced EF5 tornadoes, including the famous May 31st, 1985 event and the Xenia tornado of 1974. These are rare, thankfully, but they do happen. The reason I am telling you this now is because as we head into Sunday, the atmospheric conditions could support strong to potentially severe thunderstorms across parts of the Ohio Valley and eastern states. The timing is Sunday afternoon through Sunday evening. This is not a guarantee of severe weather. It is something I am watching closely, and I will have much more detail in tomorrow's forecast. Now let me give you the complete picture for the rest of the country so nobody feels left out. The deep south temperatures right now: Atlanta 54 degrees, Birmingham 57 degrees, Montgomery 57 degrees, Tuscaloosa 60 degrees, Huntsville 52 degrees, Chattanooga 49 degrees, Knoxville 46 degrees, Nashville 55 degrees, Memphis 61 degrees, Little Rock 67 degrees, Jackson, Mississippi 63 degrees, Baton Rouge 60 degrees, New Orleans 57 degrees, Shreveport 70 degrees, Hattiesburg 62 degrees, Florida is running mild to warm in the south and cool in the north, Miami 65 degrees with fog, Fort Lauderdale 65 degrees with light rain, West Palm Beach 66 degrees with light rain, Tampa 66 degrees, St. Petersburg 66 degrees, Orlando 59 degrees, Jacksonville 53 degrees, Tallahassee 57 degrees, Pensacola 54 degrees, Key West 69 degrees, Naples 65 degrees, Fort Myers 66 degrees, Sarasota 66 degrees, the Carolinas and Virginia, Charlotte 47 degrees, Raleigh 42 degrees, Durham 42 degrees, Greensboro 41 degrees, Winston-Salem 41 degrees, Asheville 42 degrees, Charleston, South Carolina 51 degrees, Columbia 49 degrees, Myrtle Beach 49 degrees, Richmond 38 degrees, Virginia Beach 35 degrees, Roanoke 41 degrees, Charlottesville 38 degrees, Norfolk 36 degrees. Now let me talk about something that has gotten very little attention but is absolutely fascinating from a science perspective. And if you are a weather geek like me, do not miss this part. On Tuesday, a meteor entered the atmosphere over northeast Ohio. This was not just any meteor. It was seen and heard by many people across the region. It broke apart and essentially exploded in the lower atmosphere, producing a loud boom that echoed across northeast Ohio, particularly over Medina County, south of Cleveland, and just west of Akron. Here is what makes this event remarkable. Fragments from this meteor likely made it to the ground. When a meteor fragment survives the journey through the atmosphere and lands on the ground, it becomes a meteorite. And based on the trajectory analysis, the best chance of finding meteorites from this event is around and just west of Wadsworth along Route 57 up toward Route 18 near the Interstate 71 corridor. Now here is a piece of historical context that puts this in perspective. While Tuesday's meteor was sizable, it was not the largest meteor event in Ohio as recent history. That distinction goes to an event on May 1st, 1860 in southeast Ohio. Fragments from that meteor were found in Muskingum and Coshocton counties, and the largest single fragment weighed over 103 pounds. 103 pounds of space rock found on the ground in Ohio. That remains the largest meteor impact event in the region since Ohio became a state. For those of you who live in Northeast Ohio and heard that boom on Tuesday, you are not crazy. It was real. It was a meteor. And there may be pieces of it sitting in fields and backyards right now. All right, let me get back to the forecast because we have a lot more ground to cover. I want to make sure I hit every major city so nobody is left wondering what their weather looks like. The Mountain West and Intermountain states. Boise, 79 degrees. Nampa, 79 degrees. Twin Falls area near Jerome, 76 degrees. Sun Valley area near Gooding, 76 degrees. Idaho Falls, 74 degrees. Pocatello, 74 degrees. Salt Lake City, 78 degrees. Provo, 73 degrees. Ogden, 75 degrees. Park City area near South Lake Tahoe on the Nevada side. The Wasatch Front is running warm. Moab, 80 degrees. Grand Junction, 77 degrees. Durango, 76 degrees. Montrose, 74 degrees. Telluride, 63 degrees. Aspen, 67 degrees. Wyoming is surprisingly warm. Casper, 75 degrees. Cheyenne, 73 degrees. Jackson, 64 degrees. Thermopolis, 76 degrees. Riverton, 74 degrees. Rock Springs, 69 degrees. Montana shows a temperature gradient from west to east. Missoula, 55 degrees. Kalispell, 48 degrees. Helena, 64 degrees. Great Falls, 60 degrees. Billings, 64 degrees. Bozeman, 69 degrees. Butte, 66 degrees. The Central Plains. Wichita, 74 degrees. Topeka, 74 degrees. Kansas City, 69 degrees. Omaha, 72 degrees. Lincoln, 75 degrees. Grand Island, 80 degrees. North Platte, 75 degrees. Salina, 77 degrees. Dodge City, 76 degrees. Hayes, 79 degrees. Garden City, 79 degrees. Iowa and Minnesota. Des Moines, 59 degrees. Cedar Rapids, 47 degrees. Iowa City, 50 degrees. Davenport, 42 degrees. Waterloo, 48 degrees. Minneapolis, 46 degrees. St. Paul, 41 degrees. Rochester, Minnesota, 38 degrees. Duluth, 41 degrees. Mankato, 38 degrees. Fargo, 52 degrees. Wisconsin is hanging in the chilly range. Milwaukee, 36 degrees. Madison, 38 degrees. Green Bay, 32 degrees. Appleton, 36 degrees. Eau Claire, 38 degrees. La Crosse, 40 degrees. Wausau, 33 degrees. Sheboygan, 33 degrees. Illinois and Indiana. Chicago, 45 degrees. Aurora, 40 degrees. Rockford, 37 degrees. Springfield, Illinois, 58 degrees. Champaign, 49 degrees. Peoria, 53 degrees. Indianapolis, 48 degrees. Fort Wayne, 38 degrees. South Bend, 38 degrees. Evansville, 53 degrees. Terre Haute, 52 degrees. Bloomington, Indiana, 50 degrees. Missouri and Arkansas. St. Louis, 64 degrees. Kansas City, 69 degrees. Springfield, Missouri, 67 degrees. Columbia, Missouri, 68 degrees. Jefferson City, 69 degrees. Little Rock, 67 degrees. Fayetteville, Arkansas, 68 degrees. Fort Smith, 72 degrees. Bentonville, 66 degrees. Let me now do something that I think will be really helpful for everyone watching. I am going to give you a 5-day outlook in plain English for each major region. No jargon, no complicated weather maps, just what you need to know. Northeast and New England 5-day outlook. Thursday brings improvement. You will feel the difference immediately. Highs climb into the upper 30s and low 40s for most of the region. Friday, the first day of spring, temperatures push into the 40s. Cloudy with a chance of snow showers Friday night in northern New England, possibly rain in southern areas. Saturday is the pick of the weekend with sunshine and temperatures approaching or exceeding 50 degrees in many locations. Sunday turns active with a storm system that could bring rain to the south and snow to the north, depending on boundary placement. Monday, the system moves out. Mid-Atlantic 5-day outlook. Thursday improves significantly with highs near 50. Friday brings scattered showers during the afternoon and evening. Saturday shapes up nicely after morning fog clears. Highs near 60 with sunshine. Sunday turns unsettled with showers and possible thunderstorms, especially during the afternoon. Monday dries out. Ohio Valley and Great Lakes 5-day outlook. Thursday is much better than the last 2 days. Highs in the upper 40s with a mix of sun and clouds. Minor shower chance along the Interstate 71 corridor. Friday brings scattered showers during the second half of the day with isolated thunderstorms possible in the evening. Saturday is the better weekend day with temperatures north of 60 and sunshine. Sunday brings the return of showers and thunderstorms, some possibly strong during the afternoon and evening hours. This is the day to watch this week. Southeast 5-day outlook. Thursday through Saturday look generally pleasant with temperatures in the 50s and 60s. Some cloud cover but limited rain chances through Saturday. Sunday could bring scattered thunderstorms as the same system that affects the Ohio Valley pushes south and east. Southern Plains and Texas 5-day outlook. Temperatures remain well above average through the period. Highs in the 70s for most locations with some areas touching the 80s in West Texas. Generally dry through the weekend with increasing clouds Sunday. Northern and Central Plains 5-day outlook. Enjoy the warmth while it lasts. Temperatures will be 10 to 20 degrees above average through Friday. A gradual cool down begins over the weekend, but nothing dramatic. Temperatures settle back near normal by early next week. Western states 5-day outlook. The heat dome begins to weaken by the weekend. Thursday and Friday remain extremely hot in the desert Southwest with records continuing to fall. Saturday sees some moderation, but temperatures remain above average. By early next week, a more seasonal pattern returns to the west. Pacific Northwest 5-day outlook. Periods of rain continue for western Washington and Oregon. Eastern portions of both states remain drier and warmer. Temperatures range from the mid-50s on the coast to the 70s east of the Cascades. No significant storm systems expected through the weekend. Alaska 5-day outlook. Extreme cold continues in the far north. Point Hope, -15 degrees. At Kosuk, -22 degrees. Utqiagvik, -22 degrees. Interior Alaska remains bitter with Fairbanks at 0 degrees and Arctic Village at -1 degree. Coastal areas are milder but still cold. Anchorage, 13 degrees. Juneau, 32 degrees with snow. Hawaii, 5-day outlook. Paradise, as usual. Honolulu, 80 degrees. Hilo, 76 degrees. Maui, 77 to 78 degrees. Scattered clouds and typical trade wind showers, temperatures in the upper 70s to low 80s. Now, here is something I want you to think about because it connects directly to what we are seeing right now. This kind of extreme temperature gradient, where you have triple-digit heat on one side of the country and below freezing temperatures on the other, is not just unusual. It is the kind of atmospheric setup that historically produces the most violent, severe weather outbreaks. I am not saying that is what is going to happen this week, but the ingredients are there, and that is why Sunday is the day I keep coming back to. Think about it this way. When you have air at 101 degrees in Phoenix pushing eastward and air at 20 degrees in Vermont pushing westward, something has to give. That energy has to go somewhere. And where it goes is into thunderstorms, wind, and sometimes tornadoes. The jet stream acts like a highway for these storm systems, and right now the jet stream is positioned in a way that is going to funnel that energy right into the Ohio Valley and the eastern states by Sunday. I have been doing weather forecasting for a long time, and I can tell you that this is the kind of pattern that demands attention, not panic. Attention. There is a difference. Panic helps nobody. But being prepared, knowing the timing, knowing when to be indoors, that can make all the difference. So here's what I want you to do between now and Sunday. Make sure your severe weather alerts are turned on your phone. Know where your safe spot is in your home. If you have a basement, great. If not, an interior room on the lowest floor away from windows. Have a plan. And watch tomorrow's forecast because I will have updated model data that will give us a much clearer picture of Sunday's threat level. Now let me give you something really practical. Here is a breakdown of the wind situation across the country right now, because wind is one of those factors that can make a 30-degree day feel like 15 and a 70-degree day feel like 60. For Maine and the coast of New England, seas are running 3 to 5 feet with south winds at 5 to 15 knots. That south wind is what is going to help moderate temperatures over the next couple of days, pulling milder air up from the mid-Atlantic. If you are a fisherman or you are planning any time on the water in the next few days, keep that in mind. For the Great Lakes region, winds have been relatively light today, but they will pick up Friday ahead of the cold front passage. Winds could gust to 25 to 30 miles per hour Friday afternoon in exposed areas near the lakeshore. For the Plains states, winds are running 15 to 25 miles per hour out of the south and southwest, which is part of why temperatures are so warm. That south wind is pumping warm air northward from Texas and Oklahoma into Nebraska and Kansas. For the southwest, despite the extreme heat, winds have been relatively calm. That is actually part of the problem. The lack of wind allows the heat to just sit and build under that dome of high pressure. When winds are calm under a high-pressure dome, the air just sinks, compresses, and heats up. It is a feedback loop that amplifies temperatures. Let me explain why this matters beyond just the temperature number on your thermometer. When a high-pressure dome parks itself over a region, it acts like a lid on a pot. The air beneath it sinks, and as air sinks, it compresses and warms. This process is called subsidence warming. In the summer, this is what produces those brutal 120-degree heat waves in the desert. The fact that we are seeing this same mechanism produce triple-digit temperatures in March tells you just how strong this high-pressure system is. Meteorologists rate high-pressure systems by the height of the 500 millibar surface, and this particular ridge is producing heights that are more typical of June or July. In other words, the upper atmosphere over the southwest right now looks like it does in the middle of summer. But the calendar says March. Now here is a question that I know many of you in the East are asking. Could this heat make it all the way to the East Coast? The short answer is no, not in this intensity. But the warmth is going to modify as it pushes east. That is why we are going from highs in the low 30s today to highs approaching 60 by Saturday in many eastern cities. The air mass is changing. It is not going to be 100 degrees in New York, but going from 31 degrees to nearly 60 in 4 days is a dramatic swing. And it is that dramatic swing that creates instability in the atmosphere. When you rapidly warm a region that has been cold, the atmosphere becomes unstable, and unstable atmospheres produce thunderstorms. This is exactly why I keep emphasizing Sunday. The rapid warming Friday and Saturday loads the atmosphere with energy. Then when a storm system moves through Sunday, it has all that energy to tap into. It is like filling a balloon with air. The more air you pump in, the bigger the pop when it bursts. That is essentially what happens in the atmosphere when you have rapid warming followed by a storm system. Let me also address something I know the farming community is thinking about right now. Many of you in the Plains states and the Midwest are looking at these warm temperatures and wondering about your crops and your planting schedules. Here's what I would say. This warmth is real, and it is going to help thaw out a lot of frozen ground over the next few days. But do not get too far ahead of yourself. March is notorious for giving us a taste of spring and then pulling it back. The warmth we are experiencing this week is being driven by a specific atmospheric pattern, and patterns change. I will have a better handle on the extended outlook by early next week, but for now, enjoy the warmth and use it to get some outdoor work done while you can. For those of you with gardens, this is actually a tricky time. The warm days Thursday through Saturday might tempt you to start planting, but nighttime temperatures are still going to be in the 20s and 30s across much of the northern tier of the country. Frost is still very much a threat. Do not let a few warm afternoons fool you into thinking winter is over. It is not yet. All right, let me also cover some of the more specialized locations that many of you have asked about in the past. Now let me cover some additional cities I want to make sure I get to, particularly in the South and along the Gulf Coast, because I know I have a lot of viewers in those areas. Starting with the Florida Panhandle and the Gulf Coast in detail, Destin, 56 degrees, Fort Walton Beach, 56 degrees, Panama City, 57 degrees, Port St. Joe, 54 degrees, Crestview, 54 degrees, Pensacola, 54 degrees, Mobile, 55 degrees, Daphne, 55 degrees, Bay St. Louis, 55 degrees, Gautier, 54 degrees, Pascagoula, 54 degrees. These coastal communities are running cool for this time of year, about 5 to 10 degrees below average, moving into Central and South Florida. Lakeland, 64 degrees, Kissimmee, 62 degrees, Daytona Beach, 56 degrees, Cocoa Beach, 63 degrees, Cape Canaveral, 62 degrees, Melbourne, 61 degrees, Vero Beach, 66 degrees, Port St. Lucie, 63 degrees with light rain, Stewart, 63 degrees with light rain, Boca Raton, 66 degrees, Pembroke Pines, 67 degrees, Plantation, 64 degrees with light rain, Hollywood, Florida, 65 degrees with light rain, Hialeah, 65 degrees with fog, Bradenton, 66 degrees, Clearwater, 62 degrees, Spring Hill, 61 degrees, Newport Richey, 71 degrees, Ocala, 59 degrees, Gainesville, 54 degrees, DeLand, 54 degrees, Deltona, 57 degrees, Sebring, 63 degrees, Okeechobee, 63 degrees. Now, here is an interesting observation about Florida that I think many of you will find surprising. South Florida is actually warmer tonight than most of Central Florida. Miami at 65 degrees is warmer than Orlando at 59 degrees, which is warmer than Jacksonville at 53 degrees. That is a 12-degree gradient from south to north across a state that many people think has uniform temperatures. It does not. Florida weather is far more complex than most people realize. Let me now cover the Virginia and Carolinas corridor in more detail because this is one of the most populated regions of the country and many of you are there right now. Virginia in detail. Alexandria, 39 degrees. Arlington area, temperatures similar in the upper 30s. Bethesda, Maryland, just across the border, 40 degrees. Fairfax, 37 degrees. Manassas, 36 degrees. Fredericksburg, 38 degrees. Charlottesville, 38 degrees. Staunton, 36 degrees. Harrisonburg, 37 degrees. Lynchburg, 37 degrees. Roanoke, 41 degrees. Bristol, 41 degrees. Danville, 46 degrees. Petersburg, 35 degrees. Hampton, 37 degrees. Newport News, 35 degrees. Chesapeake, 35 degrees. Norfolk, 36 degrees. Virginia Beach, 35 degrees. North Carolina in detail. Raleigh, 42 degrees. Charlotte, 47 degrees. Durham, 42 degrees. Greensboro, 41 degrees. Winston-Salem, 41 degrees. Asheville, 42 degrees. Wilmington, 48 degrees. Fayetteville, 42 degrees. Jacksonville, North Carolina, 48 degrees. Hickory, 44 degrees. Statesville, 44 degrees. Boone, 36 degrees. Kitty Hawk on the Outer Banks, 38 degrees. Manteo, 38 degrees, South Carolina. Charleston, 51 degrees. Columbia, 49 degrees. Greenville, 47 degrees. Spartanburg, 46 degrees. Myrtle Beach, 49 degrees. North Myrtle Beach, 48 degrees. Florence, 47 degrees. Somerville, 51 degrees. Clemson, 45 degrees. The Appalachian region deserves special attention because it creates its own microclimates. If you live in the mountains of North Carolina, Virginia, or West Virginia, your temperatures can be dramatically different from locations just 30 or 40 miles away at lower elevations. Boone, North Carolina at 36 degrees is 11 degrees colder than Charlotte at 47, and they are only about 100 miles apart. Black Mountain, 42 degrees. Brevard, 42 degrees. Waynesville, 42 degrees. These mountain communities are still dealing with winter-like temperatures while the Piedmont and coastal plain are starting to moderate. The same pattern holds true across the Appalachians in other states. In Pennsylvania, State College at 32 degrees sits at elevation and is much colder than Philadelphia at 36 degrees on the coastal plain. Mount Pocono at 25 degrees is one of the coldest spots in the state tonight. Punxsutawney, home of the famous groundhog, is at 30 degrees. Altoona, 33 degrees. Johnstown, surprisingly, is at 80 degrees, but that appears to be a western location with the same name, not the Pennsylvania city. The Pennsylvania Johnstown area is likely in the low 30s like the rest of the region. In West Virginia, the elevation effects are especially dramatic. Snowshoe Mountain area can be 10 to 15 degrees colder than the Kanawha Valley where Charleston sits. Charleston at 41 degrees versus the higher elevations in the eastern part of the state, which are closer to the upper 20s or low 30s. This is important for anyone planning travel through the mountains over the next few days. Even as the valleys warm up Thursday and Friday, the mountain passes and higher elevations will be slower to moderate. If you are driving through the Appalachians, especially at night, be prepared for much colder temperatures than what you see in the forecast for valley locations. Let me also talk about the coastal effects that are playing a role right now. The ocean temperature along the Atlantic seaboard is still very cold, typically in the low to mid-40s from Maine down through the mid-Atlantic. This cold water acts as an air conditioner for coastal communities. That is why Portland, Maine at 27 degrees is actually not much different from inland locations tonight. But as we get into spring and the wind shifts to come off the land instead of the ocean, coastal areas will warm more quickly. That shift begins Thursday with increasing south winds along the New England coast. For the Gulf Coast, water temperatures are in the low to mid-60s, which is why Gulf Coast cities like Tampa and St. Petersburg at 66 degrees are running warmer than cities at similar latitudes on the Atlantic side. The Gulf of Mexico is like a warm bath compared to the Atlantic right now, and that warmth moderates overnight temperatures along the Gulf Coast. Let me now cover the college towns and university areas because I know many parents and students are watching. Ann Arbor, 33 degrees, State College, 32 degrees, Ithaca, 29 degrees, Clemson, 45 degrees, Athens, Georgia, 49 degrees, Auburn, 54 degrees, Tuscaloosa, 60 degrees, Bloomington, Indiana, 50 degrees, Champaign, 49 degrees, Iowa City, 50 degrees, Lawrence, Kansas, 73 degrees, Columbia, Missouri, 68 degrees, Norman, Oklahoma area near Noble, 79 degrees, College Station, Texas, 71 degrees, Gainesville, Florida, 54 degrees, Tallahassee, 57 degrees, Chapel Hill area near Durham, 42 degrees, Charlottesville, 38 degrees, Morgantown, 36 degrees, Knoxville, 46 degrees, Lexington, Kentucky, 44 degrees, Louisville, 53 degrees, Madison, 38 degrees, Boulder, 81 degrees, Provo, 73 degrees, Eugene, 75 degrees, Corvallis, 70 degrees. See that range? Boulder at 81 degrees, while Ithaca is at 29. If you are a student with family back home, share this video with them so they know what you are dealing with weather-wise. And if you are a parent checking on your kid at school, now you know exactly what temperature they woke up to this morning. One more group I want to address specifically. Military families. Many of you are stationed at bases across the country, and weather impacts your operations and your daily life. Let me hit the major installations. Fort Liberty, North Carolina area near Fayetteville, 42 degrees. Fort Campbell, Kentucky area near Clarksville, 58 degrees. Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, 69 degrees. Fort Cavazos, Texas area near Killeen, 71 degrees. Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington area near Tacoma, 54 degrees. Fort Drum, New York, 27 degrees. Fort Bragg, California, 89 degrees. Naval Station, Norfolk area, 36 degrees. Eglin Air Force Base area near Fort Walton Beach, 56 degrees. Pensacola Naval Air Station area, 54 degrees. MacDill Air Force Base area near Tampa, 66 degrees. Fort Huachuca area near Sierra Vista, 86 degrees. The range at military installations alone tells the story. Fort Drum in New York at 27 degrees versus Fort Huachuca in Arizona at 86 degrees. That is a 59-degree spread between two military bases in the same country on the same day. Now, I want to take one more pass through some cities I have not mentioned yet because I know people are scrolling through looking for their hometown. Let me cover as many as I can, starting with Alabama. Tuscaloosa, 60 degrees. Birmingham, 57 degrees. Montgomery, 57 degrees. Huntsville, 52 degrees. Mobile, 55 degrees. Dothan, 52 degrees. Auburn, 54 degrees. Talladega, 57 degrees. Georgia. Atlanta, 54 degrees. Savannah, 51 degrees. Augusta, 52 degrees. Columbus, 57 degrees. Macon, 54 degrees. Athens, 49 degrees. Kentucky. Louisville, 53 degrees. Lexington, 44 degrees. Bowling Green, 52 degrees. Frankfort, 44 degrees. Owensboro, 52 degrees. Hopkinsville, 59 degrees. Paducah, 59 degrees. Tennessee, Nashville 55 degrees, Memphis 61 degrees, Knoxville 46 degrees, Chattanooga 49 degrees, Murfreesboro 53 degrees, Clarksville 58 degrees, Cookville 40 degrees, Sevierville 46 degrees, West Virginia. Charleston 41 degrees, Huntington 45 degrees, Morgantown 36 degrees, Clarksburg 37 degrees, Wheeling 33 degrees, Mississippi, Jackson 63 degrees, Gulfport 56 degrees, Biloxi 56 degrees, Hattiesburg 62 degrees, Tupelo 60 degrees, Vicksburg 61 degrees, Oxford 61 degrees, Louisiana, New Orleans 57 degrees, Baton Rouge 60 degrees, Shreveport 70 degrees, Lafayette 60 degrees, Lake Charles 63 degrees, Alexandria 65 degrees, Nebraska, Omaha 72 degrees, Lincoln 75 degrees, Grand Island 80 degrees, North Platte 75 degrees, Kearney 78 degrees, Scottsbluff 81 degrees. South Dakota, Sioux Falls, 56 degrees. Rapid City, 70 degrees. Pierre, 68 degrees. Aberdeen, 56 degrees. Brookings, 53 degrees. North Dakota. Bismarck, 61 degrees. Fargo, 52 degrees. Grand Forks, 39 degrees. Minot, 48 degrees. New Mexico. Albuquerque, 85 degrees, Santa Fe, 80 degrees, Las Cruces, 84 degrees, Roswell, 85 degrees, Clovis, 85 degrees, Farmington, 79 degrees, Hobbs, 81 degrees, Alamogordo, 86 degrees, Socorro, 83 degrees, Utah, Salt Lake City, 78 degrees, Provo, 73 degrees, Ogden, 75 degrees, St. George, 89 degrees, Moab, 80 degrees, Kanab, 84 degrees, Cedar City area near Parowan, 79 degrees, Nevada, Las Vegas, 89 degrees, Reno, 85 degrees, Elko, 78 degrees, Pahrump, 90 degrees, Henderson area near Paradise, 93 degrees. Now let me bring it all together with the key takeaways you need to remember from this forecast. Number 1. The southwestern United States is experiencing historically unprecedented heat for March. Records are being broken across dozens of cities with temperatures running 20 to 30 degrees above normal. This heat dome will begin to weaken over the weekend. Number 2, the eastern United States is emerging from a cold snap. Thursday and Friday bring significant warming. Temperatures that were in the teens and 20s today will jump into the 40s and 50s by Friday. Number 3, Friday, the first day of spring, brings wet weather to much of the eastern half of the country. Showers and a few thunderstorms are possible from the Ohio Valley through the mid-Atlantic during the afternoon and evening. Number 4, Saturday is the pick of the weekend for the eastern states. Get outside and enjoy it. Number 5, Sunday is the day to watch. A storm system has the potential to bring strong to possibly severe thunderstorms to parts of the Ohio Valley and eastern states during the afternoon and evening. I will have much more detail on this in tomorrow's forecast. Number 6. For New England, and especially Maine, a series of clipper systems will move through from Friday night through Sunday, bringing rounds of snow showers. A warm front or stationary boundary will determine the rain versus snow line. Its position will be critical. Number 7. The temperature gradient across the country remains extraordinary. A 50-plus degree spread between the warmest and coldest locations in the lower 48 states. This kind of extreme contrast is the fuel for active and potentially severe weather. Let me leave you with one more set of numbers before we wrap up. These are some of the most extreme temperatures being reported right now across the country, and they tell the story of just how remarkable this weather pattern is. The hottest spot in the country right now, Phoenix, Arizona, 101 degrees, the coldest inhabited spot. At Cossack, Alaska, negative 22 degrees. Utqiagvik, Alaska, also negative 22 degrees. That is a spread of 123 degrees between the warmest and coldest locations in the United States right now. 123 degrees. In the lower 48, the coldest spot is Montpelier, Vermont at 20 degrees. That gives us a spread of 81 degrees coast to coast. 81 degrees. Now, before you go, I need to remind you of two things. First, drop that comment below telling me your city and state. I am going to be responding with local forecasts. This is your chance to get a personalized update. Second, and this is important, tomorrow's forecast video is going to be critical. I am going to break down the Friday rain chances in much more detail, and more importantly, I am going to give you an early look at the Sunday severe weather potential. If you live anywhere from Ohio to Pennsylvania to New York and down through the mid-Atlantic, you need to see tomorrow's video. The ingredients are coming together for what could be a significant weather event, and I want to make sure you have all the information you need well in advance. The first day of spring arrives on Friday, and Mother Nature is giving us a fitting welcome. Record heat in the west, lingering cold in the east, and a collision of air masses that is going to make for a very active end to the week and start to the weekend. Remember, Saturday is your best day this weekend if you are east of the Mississippi. Plan accordingly. I will see you all tomorrow evening with a complete update. Do not miss it. The Sunday storm potential is something I am watching very closely, and you will want to be ahead of it, not behind it. Now, before I truly sign off, let me run through a rapid-fire round of additional cities because I know some of you are still waiting to hear your name. Connecticut, Bridgeport, 31 degrees, Stamford, 29 degrees, Danbury, 31 degrees, Waterbury, 27 degrees, Glastonbury, 32 degrees, Manchester, 32 degrees, Rhode Island, Providence, 29 degrees, Newport, 29 degrees, Narragansett, 29 degrees, Warwick, 29 degrees, Massachusetts beyond Boston, Brockton, 29 degrees, Fall River, 28 degrees, New Bedford, 28 degrees, Barnstable on Cape Cod, 30 degrees, Falmouth, 27 degrees, Provincetown, 29 degrees, Nantucket, 27 degrees, Lowell, 30 degrees, Lawrence, 30 degrees, Salem, 30 degrees, New York State beyond the city, Binghamton, 28 degrees, Ithaca, 29 degrees, Poughkeepsie, 33 degrees, Saratoga Springs, 27 degrees, Gloversville, 30 degrees, Cooperstown, 28 degrees, Plattsburgh, 25 degrees, Elmira, 30 degrees, New Jersey, Jersey City, 32 degrees, Newark, 32 degrees, Paterson, 32 degrees, Elizabeth, 32 degrees, Edison, 32 degrees, Old Bridge, 30 degrees, Lakewood, 30 degrees, Atlantic City, 32 degrees, Seaside Heights, 30 degrees, Delaware, Dover, 32 degrees, Wilmington, 33 degrees, Rehoboth Beach, 32 degrees, Maryland beyond Baltimore, Annapolis, 36 degrees, Hagerstown, 36 degrees, Frederick, 36 degrees, Gaithersburg, 37 degrees, Germantown, 36 degrees, Waldorf, 35 degrees, Greenbelt, 32 degrees, Tacoma Park, 40 degrees. Now for the California coast, because I know many of you on the West Coast want the full picture. San Francisco, 77 degrees, Oakland, 78 degrees, San Jose, 85 degrees, San Diego, 71 degrees, Long Beach, 88 degrees, Anaheim, 89 degrees, Santa Barbara, 76 degrees, Santa Cruz, 86 degrees, Monterey, 65 degrees, Carlsbad, 77 degrees, Oceanside, 77 degrees, San Clemente, 80 degrees, Huntington Beach, 83 degrees, Newport Beach, 83 degrees, Laguna Niguel, 83 degrees, Dana Point area near San Juan Capistrano, 83 degrees, Thousand Oaks, 82 degrees, Camarillo, 82 degrees, Oxnard, 79 degrees, Santa Monica, 81 degrees, Torrance, 82 degrees, Downey, 88 degrees, Garden Grove, 89 degrees, Fullerton, 89 degrees. The San Francisco Bay Area is running warm, but not as extreme as the inland valleys. Berkeley, 78 degrees. Fremont, 84 degrees. Hayward, 81 degrees. Sunnyvale, 84 degrees. Cupertino, 84 degrees. Mountain View, 84 degrees. Palo Alto, 82 degrees. San Rafael, 84 degrees. Novato, 84 degrees. Napa, 84 degrees. Sonoma, 84 degrees. Santa Rosa, 86 degrees. Petaluma, 84 degrees, Concord, 85 degrees, Walnut Creek, 85 degrees, Pleasanton, 87 degrees, Livermore, 87 degrees, San Ramon, 87 degrees, the Oregon and Washington picture, Portland, 69 degrees, Salem, 71 degrees, Eugene, 75 degrees, Medford, 80 degrees, Roseburg, 82 degrees, Bend, 76 degrees, Redmond, 76 degrees, the Dalles area, warm. Hillsborough, 68 degrees, Forest Grove, 68 degrees, Corvallis, 70 degrees, Astoria, 51 degrees on the coast, Coos Bay, 52 degrees, Newport, 50 degrees, Lincoln City, 50 degrees. See that coastal versus inland split? Portland at 69, but Astoria on the coast at 51. That is an 18-degree difference in less than 80 miles. Washington State, Seattle, 57 degrees, Tacoma, 54 degrees, Bellevue, 57 degrees, Everett, 55 degrees, Bellingham, 58 degrees, Olympia, 56 degrees, Puyallup, 55 degrees, Redmond, 57 degrees, Woodinville, 55 degrees, Port Angeles, 54 degrees, Port Townsend, 58 degrees, Oak Harbor, 58 degrees, Yakima, 73 degrees, Ellensburg, 63 degrees, Wenatchee, 68 degrees, Spokane, 61 degrees. One final point about the significance of what we are witnessing. This March heat event in the Southwest is not just a weather story. It is a climate story. When temperatures reach 105 degrees in Phoenix in mid-March, that is not normal variability. The desert Southwest has always been hot, but the timing of this event, the magnitude of the departures from normal, and the number of records being broken simultaneously make this a historically significant event. The contrast with the eastern United States adds another layer. Tens of millions of Americans shivered through single-digit and teen temperatures this morning, while tens of millions of others were dealing with temperatures that belong in June or July. This east versus west temperature divide is as stark as I have seen in my years of forecasting, and that divide is what fuels the storm potential for this weekend. Every action in the atmosphere has a reaction. The extreme heat in the west and the lingering cold in the east cannot coexist peacefully forever. When those air masses meet, the atmosphere responds with energy, and that energy manifests as wind, rain, and sometimes severe weather. So as we head into the weekend, here is my final message. If you are in the West, stay hydrated and take the heat seriously. 100-degree temperatures in March catch people off guard because their bodies have not acclimated to summer heat yet. Drink water. Stay in the shade during peak heating. Check on elderly neighbors. If you are in the East, enjoy the warming trend Thursday and Friday. Soak up Saturday, and be prepared for an active weather day on Sunday. Have your weather alerts on. Know your plan, and come back tomorrow for an updated forecast with much more detail on Sunday's storm potential. Remember to drop your city and state in the comments. I read every single one, and I will do my best to give you a personalized forecast response. And speaking of comments, let me address some of the most common questions I get in the comments section every single week because they are relevant to this forecast. Question number 1. Why does the temperature the Weather Service reports feel different from what my car thermometer says? Great question. Your car thermometer is measuring the temperature right near the road surface, which can be significantly different from the official temperature measured at an airport weather station at a standardized height above a grassy surface. This morning, many of you in Ohio reported single-digit readings on your car thermometers while the official temperature was 13 degrees. Both readings are accurate. They are just measuring different things. The pavement radiates heat differently than grass, and the height of the sensor matters. So when you see my forecast say upper 40s for Thursday, your car might read a couple of degrees warmer or cooler depending on where you are and what surface you are driving over. Question number 2. Why do the mountain areas get so much colder than the valleys? This is a process called cold air drainage. Cold air is denser than warm air, so at night, the cold air sinks into the valleys and lowlands while the hillsides and ridgetops can actually be warmer. But at higher elevations, the atmosphere is thinner and cannot hold as much heat, so mountaintop temperatures tend to be colder overall. It is a combination of elevation effects and local terrain that creates those dramatic temperature differences I was just talking about in the Appalachians. Question number 3. When you say strong storms Sunday, how strong are we talking? Right now, it is too early to give specific severity levels. What I can tell you is that the atmospheric ingredients, warm, moist air at the surface, cold air aloft, wind shear, and a triggering mechanism in the form of a cold front are all forecast to be present Sunday afternoon. Whether that produces garden-variety thunderstorms or something more intense depends on exactly how those ingredients come together, and that is something I will have a much better handle on by tomorrow evening, so please come back for that update. Question number 4. Should I cancel my outdoor event this weekend? If your event is Saturday, you are probably fine. Saturday looks like the best day of the next 7 for most of the eastern half of the country. If your event is Sunday, I would say have a plan B for the afternoon hours. Morning could be okay, but by Sunday afternoon, the storm chances increase significantly across the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and potentially the Southeast. If your event is Friday, keep an eye on the afternoon forecast because scattered showers are likely, but it should not be an all-day washout. Question number 5, and this one comes up every single time we talk about heat in the West. Is this because of climate change? I am a weather forecaster, not a climate scientist, and I try to stay in my lane. What I can tell you from a weather perspective is that this event is being driven by a very strong upper-level ridge of high pressure, which is a feature that has occurred throughout meteorological history. However, the magnitude of the departures from normal, meaning how far above average these temperatures are, is exceptional. Records are not just being broken. They are being obliterated by 5, 10, even 15 degrees in some cases. Whether this specific event is attributable to long-term climate trends or natural variability is a question better suited for climate researchers. What I focus on is giving you accurate forecasts so you can plan and stay safe, regardless of the cause. All right, those are the 5 big questions. If you have more, drop them in the comments and I will address them in tomorrow's video. Tomorrow's video is going to be a big one. I am going to break down the Friday rain event timing to the hour for the Ohio Valley and Northeast. I am going to give you the latest model data on the Sunday storm threat, including any tornado risk. And I will have an early look at what is shaping up for next week as we head into the final stretch of March. Do not miss it. The information in tomorrow's video could directly impact your weekend plans and your safety. I will talk to you then. One last thing before I go, I want to highlight something about this weather pattern that does not get enough attention: the human impact. When we talk about record heat in the Southwest, we are not just talking about numbers on a thermometer. We are talking about construction workers in Phoenix who are now dealing with conditions that require heat safety protocols that normally do not kick in until May. We are talking about elderly residents in Arizona who may not have turned on their air conditioning yet because it is March and their bodies are not ready for triple-digit heat. We are talking about hikers in Joshua Tree and Death Valley who packed for spring weather and are now facing summer conditions. And on the cold side, we are talking about people in New England and the upper Midwest who have been burning through their heating fuel longer than expected this winter. We are talking about the homeless population in cities like Portland, Maine, and Burlington, Vermont, who are enduring another night of temperatures in the 20s. We are talking about farmers in Ohio and Indiana whose fields are still partially frozen, while their counterparts in Nebraska and Kansas are already seeing soil temperatures warm enough for early planting. Weather is not just data, it is life. It affects every single one of us, every single day, and that is why I do this. That is why I stand here every evening and walk through these numbers city by city, because somewhere out there, someone is making a decision based on this information. Maybe you are deciding whether to drive to your daughter's softball game on Saturday. Maybe you are a truck driver plotting your route through the Appalachians. Maybe you are a farmer trying to figure out when to get your equipment in the field. Whatever your situation, I want you to have the most accurate, most detailed information possible. So share this video with someone who needs it. Share it with your neighbor, your coworker, your parents. Everyone deserves access to good weather information, and that is what we try to deliver here every single day. Stay safe out there, America.